Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Today's episode, Playing Around at the Edges with Sheri-Leigh Miles. We talk about the power of making sure you're doing what you enjoy, knowing environmental science was her thing before it was a thing, and learning all she needs to know about rocks in a week.
Sheri-Leigh is co-founder and director of NETpositive Futures. She helps organisations, teams and networks understand how sustainability links to organisational excellence. Her master's degree is in education for sustainability, and her career has focused on learning and education in its broadest sense. She was involved in several sustainability firsts. She's a fellow of the RSA and teaches sustainability on Newcastle University Business School's executive education programmes. She is collaborating with the team to embed the Sustainable Development Goals into their programme. Sheri-Leigh is also director of a social enterprise and workers cooperative called 4 Seasons, which supports individuals who are differently able to live the life they choose, primarily through supported employment linked to the outdoors. She has recently become an accidental software developer. Her NETpositive software was developed to support sustainability engagement across complex organisations.
Good morning to you, Sheri-Leigh. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm great, actually. We've got this far in the week. That's good.
It is good, yes. It's Thursday today, is it? I think it is.
It's hard to, I've been out in the world, which hasn't happened for a while. So yeah, getting to Thursday feels like quite an achievement.
That's good going. Well done to us. So our first question then, as always, when you were little, did you have any idea what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I think if you'd asked me when I was really little, what I remember really wanting to be was Wonder Woman.
You're not the first person who said this, so great.
This doesn't surprise me. And the correct response to that, Michelle, is mission accomplished.
Yes, mission accomplished.
I'm not sure that really counts, but that's my earliest memory of thinking what I want to be when I grow up.
Lots of twirling.
I don't know whether I've really achieved the twirling, if I'm honest, or the sparkly outfit, but there's just something about that energy, I think, that was appealing when I was very little. And I think it's really hard when you ask kids what they want to be when they grow up. They've got such a limited even when I got to a teenage and careers was not that great, you can only really answer with the very limited number of options that you've come across. So yeah, Wonder Woman, I think. Let's stick with that.
So what did your education to becoming Wonder Woman look like?
I think just having a really strong sense of doing things I really like doing. And another way of saying that is, I'm very bad at doing things I don't want to do. So you can come at that from either angle. But I think that's probably my core principle, really. So when you had to take options, or you had to decide what A-levels to do, and people around you with all of these kind of what seemed like really complicated theories around, well, if you're going to do one science, you probably need to do all sciences or all arts, or or if you haven't done X and Y subject, then you probably won't get into that university to do that course. And I'm a really simple soul, so my thought process was very much, I like to do these subjects. I'm going to pick those. I didn't feel like that should be a very complicated decision, really.
What were they?
So they were, in terms of, so for my A-levels, I did English, literature, biology and geography, because I really like to understand how the world works. And that is really biology and human. I like to know how a river has formed, or why soil is the way, those kind of things. That really makes sense to me. But I've also got the heart of a poet. So although there was very much the advice of why would you do English literature alongside those subjects and the whole of that discussion, actually, I really loved reading. And so, yeah, they were the ones I enjoyed. They were the ones I did. Would I make those same decisions again? Absolutely.
It's a good mix. I like that.
I don't think it was necessarily a sensible mix. If you know what you want to do, there were people that very definitely were going off to do medicine or solicitors, or people who understood what psychology was and therefore picked it. But if you don't know that, doing what you enjoy seems like a really sensible starting point, and I still subscribe to that philosophy. It has worked for me over the years.
We hear lots of stories, don't we, of taking something that you think you should take and then end up hating your life for a couple of years doing maths or economics. And
I think it was that. It was very much, what's the word? The worst decision is having to do something for 2 years that you don't like. That seemed to me to be far worse than actually get to the end of that, having enjoyed the 2 years and then discover that isn't going to get you where you need to be, because then you can just reset. That didn't feel like a big problem to me, really. So, And there's also a really pragmatic, let's take the subjects you think you might pass, which, should also be part of the decision-making process.
Yes.
Yeah, my A-levels were totally random as well. And they were really hard ones to do at A-level.
But do you think that they reflect you now as a person? Because actually biology, geography and English lit still really feel very congruent with my humanness.
Yeah, I think. So I did French, German and chemistry. Hard and impossible. So yeah, I think they were the subjects I liked at one school with the teachers I liked it. And then I moved, and chemistry level was like, what the actual beep is this? Can we just do some magnesium, please? Because that was fun. Potassium, both of them. But yeah, it's just, I was like, oh my goodness. So it was 2 years of really just not knowing what was going on.
Well, and I think there's a lot of pressure, isn't there, to have a really clear sense of what you're going to do, and the impact of it. Making the wrong decision is catastrophized. And well, if I get it wrong, we can do this again. We can do something different. It feels like an unsound narrative to convince oneself that there's only really one option, pass or fail, to get you from A to B.
Yeah, I think if I had to do it again, it would be definitely geography, because I really enjoyed that. Probably, actually, English literature and French. What about you, James? You did similar A-levels to me randomly, didn't you?
I did French, German and geography. And I think I found the step up from GCSE to A-level. So I did German from year 9. So I had 3 years of German before A-level versus 5 for French. And by the time you're translating Kafka novels into English, and you just think, this is not really what I signed up for. This
is before Google Translate as well. Can you imagine how easy an A-level is going to be nowadays in French and German?
Well, no one can go there.
Oh, yeah, we did have the benefits of the exchange trips, which was probably actually the real pull. It's really interesting, not just how we end up where we end up, but how we make sense of that, I think. So that what was going on at the time, why you made those decisions, whether you, over the years, have made sense of that narrative into a way that feels congruent or coherent. And I'm quite happy that I did the things that I enjoyed. And all of it is luck, accident, and sheer bloody mindedness, really. I think, and that continued. So I had a sense that I wanted to do, in terms of, did I know what I wanted to do? I started an environment club at school. So I always had a sense that I wanted to do something around it. Actually, I've got my pencil case from school, which I've still got, which has got printed on it some ways we can help our environment and some cartoons of people talking about avoiding wasteful packaging. And I've had that since I was 13.
So I think always kind of getting a sense of what I was going to end up doing, but not really. And I guess maybe because there wasn't a clear path to it, just making the rest up along the way, really, to make sure that every day I enjoyed what I'd done, because life's a bit too short to do otherwise, really. So I ended up, I went to university in Manchester, same kind of principles. I did interviews in different cities and discounted places just on, Sheffield was very hilly. I think these days students make decisions based on, the course, and the profile of the teaching staff. No, Leeds is rainy. Let's not go to Leeds. And when I went to Manchester, it was something I just felt as if I could imagine myself there, and it was as simple as that. And you can't make sense of that beyond. I walked through the doors and I thought, actually, I could see myself here in a way that I couldn't see myself tramping up a hill. Or, Manchester was probably a lot rainier than Leeds, as it turned out.
I was thinking that. I was like, it's very different time I've been to Manchester.
Because, this was about, what it was like on that day and the people that you met and the way the interview went. And so there are so many variables. And I started, so thinking environmental, I tried to get onto the course for environmental biology, and that didn't quite happen because my grades weren't quite good enough. So I did a week of a geology degree just because, you can come, but will you do geology and biology? So I just said, let's see if the universe wants me to study rocks. They are really quite boring. And my brain just couldn't comprehend the timescales involved. So after a week or two of doing geology, I think I did a week, I went to my tutor and I said, look, I don't think this is for me. I'm not doing 3 years of something I don't like. I don't mind trying it. Let's see. But and they said, well, do you want to do environmental biology? I'm like, well, you said I couldn't come. You were full up. I didn't know, whatever. So a week after everybody else started a degree in environmental biology, but that wasn't quite right either, because I was a bit of an eco warrior, didn't want to do dissection. So when I discovered how many frogs we had to chop up and various other elements of a biology degree, decided to do botany instead.
Actually, this sounds exciting. James and I were both the kids that had to leave the room when they did the chopping things up.
Oh, I'm not squeamish. I'm a gardener now, and I think nothing of snipping my slugs. It was just at that time, it felt like there was just no need to be hacking up rats. And that was part of what being an environmental activist type stroppy teenager was looking like for me. But it did completely alter everything, really, because a degree in botany, plant science, actually, so not even just botany, plant science. What the hell am I going to do with that when I finish? That's a really good question. But I did enjoy it. What I discovered was that if you do something that's actually quite niche in terms of a science, and particularly botany, I found out an awful lot about lots of things because they just clump you up. So in the first year, you'll do cell biology. And then at the end, somebody will say, plants do something similar. And then in the second year, you might have a few more units that are more kind of plant-based. And by the end, you've got a bit more kind of core planty stuff. So I actually know I did courses on really random things like bacteriology and biomechanics, but that really suited me because I'm really quite interested in stuff. I like to know how a spider's web is formed, and might not have otherwise had opportunity to discover that. So I didn't mind that. What I did discover was that at the end of a 3-year degree program in plant science, I was basically trained to do, well, what do you do with that? Because the world wasn't quite ready for a sustainability consultant, and actually environment was not on the radar at all then. So I didn't. It was only at that point, I think, that I realised, okay, perhaps a little bit more forethought may have been useful.
You knocked on Alan Titchmarch's door.
Well, and that is exactly what happened, really. Well, not quite what happened. I ended up, I just applied for jobs because I wasn't sure. And I thought, there's going to be a way through this. And the jobs that revolved around, that had anything to do with plants that I thought I might be vaguely qualified to do, were in plant nurseries, plant production. And I grew up quite close to large areas of sort of horticultural production. But I ended up in a college, a land-based college, working in their plant nursery, which I did actually absolutely love. I went for interview and said no to every single question. Can you drive a tractor? No. Can you reverse a trailer? No. Did you listen to the answer for can I drive a tractor? All of the questions. But it wasn't just no, it was no, but I can learn. And so I did. And I got the job and I learned and I loved it. And I ended up running the nursery and linking it really strongly with, obviously, because it was not just a plant production unit, but people and students and lecturing. And so I was at that college for 9 years, but I think every single year did a slightly different job, partly because that's what FE is like. If you could do one thing, you can do something else. And everybody's kind of got lots of roles in FE because it's that kind of place. But that just suited me perfectly and did that. And then ended up just created a role for myself, really, because there was nobody doing sustainability or environmental stuff. So I just found a way, and I've always done this. So get the job done, take care of business, and then play around the edges. And playing around the edges for me looked like, I can teach and I can run a nursery and I can get the job done. But actually, can I also be involved in this little project, or can I think about that way of working, or can I contribute to something that no one's done yet, but let's see what happens. And so I ended up becoming one of, I think, only a handful of sustainability coordinators in colleges. And I'm really nosy. So who's doing what and what's happening and can we do that and what would happen if? And all of the questions that still drive me meant that I ended up doing quite a lot at the edges of my core role. And I'd volunteer to do things that no one else really wanted to do. And I'd put myself in positions where I straddled. I do a lot of straddling. So I would, because I was teaching sustainability and environmental stuff, I would go and do that on different courses. So one day I would be teaching sustainability to gamekeepers and countryside managers and farmers, wannabe farmers. And then I'd also go and do the design students and the florist. From my perspective, the content didn't really change, but it was interesting to me because I learned as much as I taught, which is, I think, still very much part of how I work and how I enjoy spending my time, really. I think in terms of that kind of professional development, there are some roles where you end up in a bit of a career cul-de-sac. I don't know if that's a proper term, but that's definitely how it felt. If I wanted to progress, I needed to become I was a course leader for a bit, but it didn't really interest me. It became less what I wanted to do and more management. I could have been a head of department. That was the career path. If I wanted to do sustainability stuff, I probably had to leave. And because I networked really well nationally and got involved in lots of things that were happening on a kind of national level just by volunteering to do stuff that no one else was doing, really, I ended up moving into a university role. And at that point, sustainability, environment was just sort of on the cusp of being a bit more of a thing. And again, same principle. There was a large, well-funded project that I worked on at the University of Bradford that became the first to do sustainability in certain ways, the first to do student engagement, the first to kind of engage staff meaningfully around sustainability activity. It was a 3-year fixed term contract, and we had money, because in those days people were funding exciting, interesting projects. And we had profile because nobody had done it before, so it was interesting. And we just got to do some really interesting, innovative things. And we were researching the activities. We had action research strand, longitudinal research strand. We were doing stuff with staff, stuff with process. Loved it. Came to the end of that fixed term project, and I think any other year that would have probably just become business as usual, and I'd probably still be in Bradford. But the universe has other plans, and global crash, people panicking, and then redundancy. What an absolutely brilliant thing that turns out to be if you're lucky, if you are bloody minded, and if you've got a sense that you're only going to do things that you really want to do. So, and I speak to people now, they say, so, how did you decide to make the leap? No. This is not about making a leap. This is about being pushed off a cliff. Thanks very much. And then flapping like hell and working out what that's going to look like to make sure that you keep going. Really interesting period, actually, really interesting personally and professionally. Who are you if you don't have a job? Who are you if you don't have a role in an organisation? Who are you if really all of those national voluntary roles that you had were attached to that project, to that title, and without them, that network doesn't value you in the same way, or you're not part of that group anymore because you are no longer employed by a university or whatever that happens to be. So really interesting, lots of learning. And I guess the choice really was, well, you can do what you've just done somewhere else with less money and less profile and less opportunity to innovate and play. And that might be okay. But that was never really going to be okay. So ended up just seeing what freelance looked like and doing that for a bit. And the usual kind of, well, we can do this and we can do that and I can help with that. And I guess from there, the working with interesting people, doing interesting projects and getting a bit of a foot in the door, but getting a bit more known for doing that rather than being attached to an organisation. And I guess that's how I've ended up where I am today, working with my now business partner, who I did lots of work for on a sort of more subcontracted basis, ended up working together. And really just still making sense of it. And I think I did my master's. This is another one of those. I saw an advert for a master's in education for sustainability and had genuinely no idea what that was, but I was 100% confident that was what I needed to do. And it was the first year that education for sustainability had existed as a course. Previously, it had been environmental education and development education. So that very cusp of this is a new thing, a new language set, the global stance, I guess, and language around sustainability really developing at that time. And that's where I've been ever since, really, doing interesting things with interesting people, trying to keep pushing at those edges and having a positive impact, and still making sure that every single day I get to the end of it and think, yeah, I quite enjoyed that. That was good fun. And if it wasn't, then at least there was a really good reason for it, that I made a choice to do whatever that thing was. Mm-hmm. Love it. Absolutely love it.
It's a good metric to have, isn't it? They often have that in business and the reports to various people.
No, I never have it. And it's the only thing that really matters. Time is the only measure that how you've spent your time, and how you spend your days being the thing that becomes how you spent your life is just really powerful.
With sustainability, it's a word that it feels can encompass so many different things. Is there any particular focus you bring with your freelance work, or is it something you're literally open-minded to do? Many different things? What would you say?
What's become my thing, my focus really is the engagement with it, which is just a different way of saying learning, but it takes it out of a classroom situation. So a few years ago, we became accidental software developers because the gap is in helping people to engage with it, not in a let's make it fun way necessarily, because, we don't make health and safety fun. It's important. We take it seriously. Mm-hmm. So how do we engage people with sustainability in a way that makes sense to them, makes sense of their context, and isn't just here's 10 top tips, and if everybody did those, everything will be fine, but actually engaging meaningfully in what this means in my context is X, Y, and Z. So I've actually done a lot of work over the past few years with procurement teams. And where I started was with sustainability teams and helping them to make sense of sustainability from a sustainability perspective. Where I feel like I've ended up having more impact over the last 5 years is working with people who are not sustainability experts, don't really know anything about it, enthusiastic amateurs at best, but really understand procurement. And understand that excellent procurement means thinking about environmental, social, and economic elements. So that's been hugely powerful. And that has really flipped things for me, because I'm much more interested now in talking to people who want to link sustainability to excellence, to process excellence, to organisational excellence, to team excellence, and to individual professional practice. So it's less, I'm not a carbon specialist, I'm not a waste specialist. We've got loads of those people. What I like to do is help people make sense of sustainability as it relates to them, to their organisation. So at the moment, I've launched 3 things this week, and I've taken to doing this instead of telling people about what I do. I just say this week I have done. So this week I have launched a version of our engagement software with the MBA students at the Newcastle University Business School. So we're working together to help embed sustainability into the exec ed programme. So all of those leaders will get a real sense of sustainability and what it means to their context. I launched a sustainability plan that I've been working on with an organisation. University, Kingston University, have been down there celebrating the fact that even during lockdown, we managed to develop a plan for sustainability that straddled the whole university. So that was really good. And then yesterday we launched South Yorkshire Police are using our software to engage their teams and departments with sustainability. So interesting. What does it mean for the mounted division or the domestic violence unit to think about sustainability in their context? This is not recycling. This is not carbon. This is really about professional excellence, but understanding that broader context of sustainability, sustainable development goals, and translating that into things that actual humans in actual roles in organizations that believe this is important can take. And that's kind of my focus. It's a long answer, James. I'm aware of that, but it's
good one.
It's not straightforward. If it was easy, we'd be doing it by now.
Yes,
fascinating.
Which is why I'm pleased I got to Thursday.
It's like we think, can I have a lie down?
Well, no, because what happens is the next 3 things are already bubbling up, which is also brilliant. And it's not like they ever move on. We continue to work with those teams to think about implementation, to measure and monitor progress and impact. And I really like that. We work, it's not a transactional consultancy, it's a relationship thing that we do. We tend to work with people for quite a long period of time.
Yeah. I love the sort of that play and that curiosity and creativity. And accidentally software developing, that made me giggle.
The nicest compliment.
Yeah.
The nicest compliment we had was that we were sustainability people who had developed useful software rather than software people looking for a segment, looking for a new audience. And I think that, it was accidental. We just needed a tool. The tool happened to be software based because engagement, we can't scale up doing things the way we've done them. It can't be about sustainability teams who take responsibility for sustainability anymore. It has to be everybody owning their kind of piece of the puzzle. So, engaging across an organisation needs to be done differently. It can't be events and posters and, that kind of campaign-y based activity. I want it to be really boring. I want it to be stitched into business processes. So that's the direction of travel, I think, for our work.
Exciting. So world domination plans then?
Always, yes. Yeah. I think just our bit of the world, making sense of it, feeling as if we've done as much as we can do, that we've had a positive impact. I'm driven to have as much of an impact as I can. We all make a ripple, and it's not about who can make the biggest ripple. It's just what ripple can I make, and I know that I can put myself in a position where I can ripple quite widely, and I'm really fortunate. So that's what I do.
Yeah, awesome. So we're going to move on now to the quick fire questions, and I think James is going to take away the first question.
Question number 1. What is your favourite room in your house?
Probably, does it have to be my house? It's going to be my shed. I'm sorry. It has to be my shed. I'm a gardener. I've got 2 sheds, Sherry, actually. I've got a summer shed and a potting shed. So, yeah, shed, without question. We bought this house. We came to look at this house. And I was really only interested in the garden, to the point that when we opened, the woman who was selling the house opened the front door, and I was just like, I'm just going to go and have a look in the garden. The house was just a added extra.
Somewhere to sleep.
Yeah.
I love it. Is that a willow outside?
That is a willow. It's not my willow, actually. That's the neighbour's willow. But I do. Gardening is my place to rebalance and connect and learn. There's a lot to be learned in the garden.
Awesome. Okay, so the second question. If you worked at a circus, which job would you choose?
A circus? I don't. I'd be putting up the tent or something. I think holding the space is really what we do. I'm not interested. I'm not particular. I can get up on a stage. I could probably dance on a horse, should I be required to. But I think creating the space, holding the space, bringing the people together is probably whacking in those tent poles.
Love it.
That's where you'd find me.
You'd think you actually prepared that answer. Have you been asked that question before?
No. But we did go to a circus the year before lockdown. So I was just thinking of there wasn't anything about the act on stage that, I don't have a great drive to be doing. But yeah, the tent was beautiful, and that bringing people together was amazing.
And question number 3, who is the luckiest person that you know?
Me. Absolute me. 100% me. So lucky. Every single day, the priority I place on being thankful for being a human alive is, me.
Oh.
Every measure. Absolutely love being me. It's great. Very, very lucky girl.
Wonderful. I'd still love to bottle you and sprinkle it on other women. Which sounds really wrong now I say it out loud.
It sounds quite wrong. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, I think we're going to be talking more. And
is there going to be an accidental perfume line?
Over to Sheri-Leigh. Another question we had.
Compost.
Yeah. Another question James came up with is, if you could change your name, where is it? If you had to change your name, what would you change it to?
Do not think I have not thought about changing my name. If I could have thought of something, I would be called that by now. I've made my peace with it. It's a ridiculous name, but I have made my peace with it. It sort of doesn't feel like me, but there are things that I like. If someone shouts Michelle, you must not know whether they mean you or not. Even if someone's whispering at a level that, only a mouse can hear, but they say Sheri-Leigh, I know they're talking about me. I don't mean I mind, but there are some benefits. It's just a bit daft. It's very unhelpful in an era of doing things remotely, really. There are lots of places where a hyphen is not allowed. It's not recognised by our system. But, that's not news to me either, not being recognised by the system.
And your parents weren't country and western fans? Or
No. My mum, bless her, I asked her once, why? And she said, I called you Sheri-Leigh because I wanted you to be different until you were.
I love it.
Just brilliant. My brother and sister have got very, very sensible, ordinary names. So, yeah, the joy of being the first.
Yeah. Such fun. Well, yeah. My dad's Michael. So if I was a boy, I would have been called Michael Jr. So that would have been awful. So if we could get in a time machine and take you back to your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give to you?
Well, I mean, I can't be the first to say that there's not one part of my 18-year-old self that will be taking any advice. Just not even a possibility. But in preparation, I did know that this question was coming. So this isn't the circus question. I did know this one was coming, and it really made me reflect. And I'm going a slightly different way with the conversation now, but there are two transformational things that happened in my life that I think I would be trying to alert my 18-year-old self to. So the first was not even that long ago, less than maybe 8 years ago. I had a marina coil fitted, and that changed my life. And then about earlier in lockdown, I started on HRT. And I am literally telling everybody that I speak to about how brilliant it is, because I couldn't move without everything hurting. And that absolutely transformed my life. So what I would really urge my 18-year-old self to do is to go to the doctors and get some kind of reproductive health advice. If you're gay and female and 18 in the 90s, you're not going to the doctors to ask for contraception. You do not have any opportunity to talk about anything that relates to cycles and bleeding and health. And I actually lost years, and I'm quite grumpy about that. So I think, any 18-year-old listening that might want to take any, get your hormones sorted, because it's not let's stop talking about menopause as the change in hushed tones and start talking about it as estrogen deficiency that you really might want to get looked at if you don't want to be, almost crippled every morning when you wake up, or really feeling like you can't function as a human, because that should just be the basic health, basic health.
I think it's a very important message.
Yeah. It was the only thing that I could really think would really make my life different in a better way. And actually the thing that you just let go, don't you? You just let things slip for what then turns out to be quite a long time with, well, we don't, that's not a priority, or that's not, it must just, I'm a bit tired, I'm a bit this, dismissing it. So yeah, that health is really important.
No, very powerful, good advice. So for our listeners, if you would like to follow, connect, find out more about what Sheri-Leigh's up to, best place to go is LinkedIn. Look for Sheri-Leigh Miles.
Yeah, unique, the only.
Yeah. I'm not, that probably isn't strictly true, but I'm quite easy to find.
Yes. Somebody wrote a song about you being the only. Cool. Well, thank you ever so much for squeezing us into your bonkers busy week of launching everything every 3.5 minutes and going out into the real world. So we massively appreciate you coming to chat with us, and I'm looking forward to learning more.
Thank you for inviting an interloper from Yorkshire into your northeast Newcastle focused podcast.
No, it's cool.
Thank you.
James is half Yorkshireman, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's true.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.